first item is the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have an item that Selectman Michael Pelton has asked to have added under number 9. It would become number 10, and it is support of the Paris Accord. Many cities and towns are expressing their support, and we would like to talk about that as number 10. And then number 11 will be appointments to boards and commissions and so forth. Also, we did give to the selectmen another change, which is the addition of, hold on a second here, the lease purchase agreement, which is number 9. So officially, that is added to the agenda that had been posted. So number 9 would be resolution for the lease purchase agreement, setting the special town meeting date. And then number 10 would be support of the Paris Accord. And then number 11 would be appointments to boards and commissions and so forth. So with those two changes, is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I'd like to make that motion.
Thank you, Michael.
Seconded.
Seconded by Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Thank you. Number 4 is approval of minutes from the regular May 17, 2017 meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Michael. Any changes, errors, omissions? Being none.
Susan,
Yeah,
who was present at that meeting?
I don't have it with me. I know,
Was that when Jim came on board?
yes, I
Okay,
think that
then
was
that was
Jim's.
it, yeah.
Jim, is
Jim's-
that
it was
your
Jim's
first night,
meeting.
correct?
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
I just want, yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
Because I think, Ben, the meeting before, we did not have quorum.
That's when it wasn't here, okay.
Right. Okay. So is there a motion to approve those minutes? Has
They did
that
that.
been made and
Yeah.
seconded?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions on that? Further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Any questions on that, Laura? The next, I wanted to call your attention to a proclamation that we were requested to issue, and it has to do with the annual National Nursing Assistance Week, which is June 15 through June 22nd. The Portland Care and Rehabilitation Center had asked that we do this, and barring unforeseen circumstances, I will be going to their center on June 15th to give this to them. And it is certainly well-deserved in that our nursing assistants provide quality care and a quality of life for elder, frail, and disabled citizens, as well as the well-being and happiness of these citizens depend in large part on the nursing assistants, the home care aides, patient care assistants, and others who provide 85 to 90% of the daily hands-on care in nursing homes and other long-term care settings. And whereas these career nursing assistants are instrumental in promoting and safeguarding physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual well-being of their clients and their families, and whereas career nursing assistants are trained professionals who collaborate closely with other health professionals to provide quality care and to elevate the status of their chosen profession. So the Board of Selectmen resolves to signify our appreciation, and we proclaim June 15 through 22, 2017 as Nursing Assistance Week, specialists in the art of caring in the town of Portland, and call upon all our citizens in our community to celebrate the 40th annual observance of Nursing Assistance Week, and we express our encouragement and respect for the service performed by these caregivers in the public good. Is there a motion to approve?
Absolutely.
So moved by Kathy, seconded by Michael. And we do have many loved ones who are cared for by our nursing assistants, as well as our nurses and other health professionals, but in particular, we're calling attention to their quality of work. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Public comment. Mr. Ward.
Did I speak from here?
Well, you won't be heard on the tape as well. Norm, I think if you don't mind, it would be helpful to us. Thanks.
I saw. Norm Ward, 54 Lake Road, Portland. I just need some clarification on something. We had our $10 million bond referendum, and I understand there's some work that's going to be started up on Spring Street. Within that work, if I understand correctly, we're gonna, since it's all gonna be torn up, we're gonna do a water main replacement and maybe a potential portion of a sewer main replacement. I just want to make sure that where are them expenses gonna be expensed? The replacement of the water main, I hope will be funded through the water fund. And the replacement of the sewer main, I hope will be funded through the sewer fund and not through the general taxation. I don't think as a taxpayer that overall the general taxpayer should be paying for a water or sewer main replacement. If that, I want to make sure them costs get separated and allocated to the right place. If not,
They're
I
not.
don't.
They're
that-
not, and that was not
That's what I heard.
resolution that was passed by
I will,
the referendum.
then that brings me into the main reason why I'm here. When I went to the voting booth and I read the resolution, it did not say anything about water and sewer infrastructure. Now, I know in some of the backup paperwork I've seen since, it is mentioned in there. I did not vote for a $10 million bond where it did not say anything about water and sewer infrastructure. I don't mind using bond money for that project, but it should be funded and expensed through the proper fund. I don't think the general taxpayer should be paying for that. I don't think we're being transparent if that's what's being done. It wasn't transparent when I read the referendum at the voting booth. I think that's just a very sneaky way of doing business.
I can tell you that there was a town meeting at which time the resolution that was associated with the referendum was reviewed. We had the public, I believe there was a public hearing as well as the town meeting, which then went to the referendum, and there's no way you can get a 4-page resolution, if I'm remembering how long that resolution was, on a ballot question.
Right.
So typically, the ballot question is not inclusive of everything that is in the resolution.
I could not agree with you more, but we left off 3 important words on that resolution that people read at the booth to vote: water and sewer infrastructure. 3 words. That's what I mean by being transparent. Yes, I'm sure at a public hearing, with all the documentation and the backup, it's listed in there. Did everyone read the fine print? Maybe I did. But that isn't how we should operate in our town. When we went from this $10 million to bid scuttlebutt in town, was the main purpose is we're just voting for the park. And I think that's true. The main people voted for the park. We added on other things. We had $6 million from the park, and we added $4 million on the tail. Fine. But I think we left off the most important part. We didn't tell the voter who read it at the booth, oh, we're going to pay for water and sewer infrastructure repair. Why shouldn't it be done by the water fund and the sewer fund the way it should be? I'm not in favor of my general taxation paying for water main and sewer main replacement. Nobody helps me on my septic system when I have to put $7,000 into repairs. Nobody helps me on my well when I have to put a $300-400 pump on my well. And I think the same thing should be done here. Them costs should be separated out, and it should be accounted for in the appropriate fund. Water fund and the sewer fund. Once we start burying stuff and we're not transparent, I think that's a wrong place to go, and I think it's misleading us taxpayers. and I don't think it's correct. So I'd like to get a feel from the board. I'm not saying anything is being done wrong. I just don't think it's being transparent. I don't think it's what I read when I went to vote on that at the voting machine. No, we can't list everything, but we left off 3 very important words: water and sewer infrastructure.
Let's recall that it's 6 million is for the park, 2.5 million is for roads and other infrastructure, and 1 million is for sidewalks and 500,000 for other capital improvements to public buildings.
Right. I don't think anyone
I
had
just
a
wanted to
problem with
repeat
that,
that.
in a way, 2.5 million for road and sidewalk repair. But now out of that 2.5 million, we're taking out for water main repair. And I would say that's probably gonna be about $1 million. That isn't, we didn't vote for $1 million for a water main
I
replacement.
don't know that I can give you the quoted number for that.
Well,
we
I'm
would
just
have
throwing
to-
out a, I'm
Well,
sure it's not a
I don't think
cheap
we
number.
should just say a number. I think
Well,
we have to be careful, Norm,
well,
because I
you-
don't know that
You,
number.
I agree. You
So-
threw out 2.5 million, that's what was voted on.
Yes.
That's why I think, to be transparent, we need to keep track of these costs separately. They should not just be buried into 2.5 million, and that's what it cost us. I don't think that's transparent, and I don't think it's gonna be fair to our taxpayers. And that's why I'm here. I understand it. I understand, as long as we don't go over the 2.5 million that got voted on. Let's be honest with our taxpayers. Let's separate our costs so we know what it's costing us to do sidewalk repairs, roadway repair, sewer repair, water repair. At least let's keep the costs segregated so we know what it costs, even though we're not funding it the way I think we should. I think, I repeat again, water main replacement should be in the water fund accounted for. Sewer main replacement should be accounted for in the sewer fund. That's what our funds are for. It's not to bury it in the general taxation. I don't feel that's fair, again, to us taxpayers. Thank you.
Norm. The next item is the monthly, I'm sorry, are you getting up?
Yes.
Thank you.
Shirley
Sorry, Shirley.
Olson, Russell Avenue. In relation to the Norm's comment, in relation to the referendum, I thought it was our understanding that the road work was gonna be done on Brownstone Avenue, but that's another discussion for another day. The merge lane in front of the post office has become a high-speed passing lane. Last week, also in that area, last week, there was a car headed towards the bridge that was making a left-hand turn into Fairview Street, okay? This was not during rush hour per se, school was out and everything. There were 10 cars backed up behind it because of the change that's been made down there. Then, day before yesterday, when I was out walking, there was one of those long buses, you know, those Peter Pan buses that seem to go on forever. It wasn't a Peter Pan bus, but it was as big as one of those. Was in that merge lane, was not given the opportunity to merge. It was still in the striped off to the side where the walkers and the bicyclists and everything went, all the way up to the Portland Rehab and Care Center. I have a concern about lights in town, okay? Is it really necessary for the outdoor lights to be on buildings during the day? I don't think so. And there's a problem on Middlesex Avenue. The one in the snack bar, or the building for football and soccer, that one was taken care of. Sean Dwyer took care of that. However, the fire department, there's anywhere between 1 and 4 lights on every day, all day long in the front of the building. We're paying for that. do they really need lights on the outside of the building during the day?
I'll check with the fire chief and alert him to that. Is this fire company 1, 2, and 3, Shirley?
No, it's just
or
Middlesex Avenue, it's the
one?
only one I walk past.
Yep.
Would you like me to take a walk down Main Street?
Just checking, thank you. Fire 1, right?
Yep. And also, concern I still have remain, regarding lights in, public buildings that are on at night. My biggest peeve that I brought up before are the 2 large lights on the 2nd floor of the town hall building on 24/7. I'm sorry, I turned my lights off. But then I was taught that too. My father worked for the power company. He said he didn't own it, he just worked for them. And then, often on the 2nd floor at Biz, in the window above the clock, there's often the fluorescent light on up there at night. And this, the custodians, I believe, leave at 7 o'clock, and this is like 9 o'clock at night. But I think there's some savings that can be had in this situation. Thank you.
I just want to point out that the lights in the town hall are, it's not that they're not turned off. Those lights are there when they built the building. As I understood, it was part of the code compliance to have lighting in that building. We can't shut those off because it's not in keeping with the plan for the building code when it was built. Did you have another comment, Norm?
Yes. I hate speaking of that people. I didn't finish. Where are these costs going to be accounted for on the water main replacement?
Well, first of all, we haven't put together the bid specifications. It's something we are working on. Secondly, the way the bond finances and all of the requirements, they're administered under the oversight of our bond counsel, who is Bruce Chudwick of Shipman and Goodwin. So we are following the directives, and we have since we started this project, as to how he put together the package and how the selectmen passed it and how it was approved at referendum. And water and sewer costs as part of the infrastructure of tearing up a road was included in that bond question that was processed and passed.
Well, where do we expend?
I'm not gonna bring it up totally tonight. We can certainly have comments. I can't give you a decision tonight other than what the facts are, because it's not on our agenda. And we typically don't get into detail unless I notice everybody that we're doing this, but we certainly can at another time. Ben, did you wanna say something?
Yeah, and I think it's important that you brought it up, and I think the timing's fine. I believe the way it was written, we have the ability to include the infrastructure under the road, is the wording that I remember. It doesn't mean we have to. So if somebody like yourself is advocating that it should be separated, there's still time, in my opinion, that could occur.
Don't forget the way you budgeted this. The way you budgeted that bond was not within water and sewer. It is budgeted within general taxation. Is that right, Tom?
Yeah, that's before they're in the budget report.
Okay.
Right, but what I'm getting at is, in other words, if the majority of the board chooses to not replace, which is an option, not replace the water and sewer, that we have that ability. The way it was.
You don't have to do anything.
Correct.
If
Susan's
you don't wanna
correct.
do the project, you don't have to do it.
Correct.
You told the voters you were going to, but you don't have to.
Well, we never told them what road. We didn't tell the voters. We told the voters Brownstone Avenue, I think, was the highest priority, actually. But so Norm, my point is, I think your timing's fine. I think it's a great conversation to be had, and if there are more questions that you have, I think they're welcome.
I agree 100%. If you're getting the whole area torn up, of course you want to do a water main repair if that's what's necessary. How many times do we get Main Street repaved and all of a sudden, we decide we need to do something, so we tear it up? Let's look forward and know if we got that whole area torn up, of course we want to do it. You're foolish not to. Come back in another year and tear the whole area up again. I'm mailing concerned when I heard about how it's gonna be expensed and planned.
We're moving right into the monthly budget report, so, sure, Kitch?
So, Norm, I'm trying to figure out, your concern is not that this might be added to the work when we tear up the road. As a matter of fact, if we're opening the road, you would like it to be done. Your question has to do with the accounting of the monies, is that correct? Okay. So, Susan, do you think we could bring the wording for the referendum to our next meeting so that we
Of
can
course.
try and take a look at it and see what exactly it
Of
means?
course.
Okay, thanks.
I did look at what we
Absolutely.
voted at the machine, and that was sewer infrastructure.
Okay, so we probably should take another look at it and think about how we're gonna best
That's
do
what I mean
this.
by being.
But just so you know, Norm, like Susan mentioned, at that previous meeting, we were all aware the ability to change that was in there, and so were anybody that was present at those meetings. There was discussion about the water and sewer as being part of the project, or could be part of the project at a previous meeting, maybe, and I don't believe you were there, but Susan, if you could bring that language also, because I think, you know.
I think that's what Kitch asked.
Yeah,
for.
Not-
everything, all the discussion that surrounded it.
Okay,
yeah.
not just the referendum, but that previous one also,
Right.
because I think that's important to have. Thank you.
All right, I'll address that situation. The process was very clear, it was very transparent. It was documented well within all the resolution and all the documentation provided by Bruce Chudwick, included in the language that said that we would be doing roadways and including water and sewer infrastructure as the main issue on both either or Spring Street and Brownstone are water and sewer components of the road. So if you're gonna destroy and rip up a road and spend millions of dollars, why would you not replace a 100-year-old water and sewer main? It's a local infrastructure that maintains a good portion of your downtown between the schools of your schools on High Street, your schools on Main Street. We spent thousands of dollars on road repairs on Spring Street. The customers have been, had issues on that. Unfortunately, there's been numerous water main breaks. So that was with the funding that was available, that was the second place road. Brownstone had a $4.5 million or so value that was nowhere near funded. So the only one that was reasonably next funded was Spring Street. So it was very apparent, and it was in all the documentation that was presented that your water and sewer would be in there. And it is clear, and it was the decision of the board to include that in there as an economic development to the town. So that's that. The budget report is in front of y'all.
Thank you.
We are doing well on revenue. The tax collector's done a nice job going through and making collections. Educational cost sharing, it looks like we're gonna be shorted about $64,000. Mashantucket Pequot, we're still waiting on seeing what's coming in, as we anticipate the 9,000 to come in based on some of what we're hearing. The governor was gonna pull that, but looks like hopefully they'll award that to us. We were not gonna get the $5,000 for elder relief. They changed the percentage a little bit. We received the revenue sharing grant as we had done in the past, so that's great. Mary Flood's working on receiving some of the money back for the miscellaneous ride sharing program. There's been some delays in that money, so she is working on that. We anticipate receiving the money from the Housing Authority. That usually comes in July or June, and it gets is charged back. Done well on property rental from Brownstone, as well as any property rental that we have for the school districts. The recording fees for town clerk have been coming in quite well. And we're you're seeing an uptick here in structural permits. So those are some positives. So that's some good things on the revenue side. Expenditures, it's pretty much the same story that we've been telling all along. You have issues within legal. There's been a lot of legal activity. We are still waiting on the invoice for some of the work on the Elmcrest project, so we're anticipating hopefully to see that invoice soon from Shipman and Goodwin. We have expended quite a bit over in engineering. Again, that has been anticipated as well. But we've been watching that as more development comes in and more projects have come in. And there was also there was quite a bit on storm water monitoring and the dam work that needed to be done this year. We continue to monitor vehicle maintenance. That's always a tricky one, but we'll the men are doing their best there to monitor that. Hopefully, with a new lease, that will improve some of that those costs. Senior Center, it's doing pretty well, but they had that one big issue in there.
What page are you on?
I'm on page 11.
Thank you.
They had one big issue with related to their elevator, so that was a large cost that we had to incur. That's kind of unexpected cost, so that they may need a transfer in to help them over that hump. And we did, on the snow budget, we globally went over by slight, I think it was $7,000 or $8,000, which is not too bad. In that instance, that's about $7,000 so far, and that could be one. Thankfully there wasn't a lot of snow, but the snow did often hit on holidays and vacations, so the overtime was quite substantial, although the road materials were not needed to be as high. So we were able to save on road materials, but obviously not on overtime. So all in all, same type of story we've been telling, and we'll keep watching as bills come in throughout the rest of June and early July and August. Relate back.
Okay, just a quick question.
Sure.
On page 2,
Yes, sir.
police private duty,
Yes, sir.
just want to explain that number to me again.
So police private duty is amounts that are brought in from outside revenue when the police, you know how the police on construction jobs will be out there.
Right.
So there's billings that are done, and depending on if it's for a town project or for outside companies, there's rates that are set, and they're billed out, and then the money comes into there, and then there's a corresponding expense in the police department line item for the payroll.
Tom, on page 3, that's the general town council. You say that we still have, what was that, the Shipman and Goodwin outstanding, and that's not in that number?
It is not, nope,
What do you anticipate that to be?
don't know.
So theoretically, we could be at double what we budgeted? I know Brian asked for this before he left, but could I have a breakdown of where these expenses went? What attributed them to be literally potentially double?
Yeah, that analysis was provided, I know.
Yeah,
I
we
don't-
gave
I
it to
didn't-
them.
You get, well, okay, I didn't get one, I'd like one.
Sure. I'll point out that there were requests from the board for many of these things, and many of the projects, as you know, Ben, that come in, we don't necessarily know how many development projects that have come.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point, Susan. How do we dictate, I'll give you an example. Wayne Rand just did a subdivision at Elmcrest, and we did not
He
hire.
did a
the town-
subdivision at Elm.
Or, sorry, did a subdivision at Riverdale, and we didn't hire the town attorney to review that application, but then I filed an application, and the town attorney then reviewed it, and 2 of the same 4 issues the town attorney brought up on my case were identical on his case. Who dictates when the town attorney is hired and why?
The land use department requests for their applications, whether or not they need a town attorney. And if they do, I make resources available to them. So they dictate as to what attorney needs they have, depending on the particular situation.
And I think we'll probably get some more insight once we see a breakdown of what is getting spent and where and why, so then we could possibly have a different procedure put in place to prevent things like this that don't need to occur in certain situations.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Tom, overall, are you happy with the amount of money that we have? Are we looking good in terms of no big surprises in the budget so far? Are there any big red flags that you see, or just are you pretty comfortable with what all the numbers look like overall?
I don't really necessarily know how to answer that question. I mean, there's, you know, I think charges are all appropriate. People are doing their best following the purchasing policies, hiring people when they are needed, hiring vendors when needed. You know, I think that the things that were over, you know, are understandable. You have a lot of P&Z cases, lawsuits, so now you're paying Pillacy, you gotta pay Kalina, you know, we gotta pay, we had a bunch of labor negotiations this year, so we got, Keenan and Escalera is gonna get paid, and then, we are working on, trying to get some of that Brownsfield acquisition going, and some of that money there, that's not, that legal is not allowed to go to the grant, that's gotta be covered by, you know, our costs, so that's trying to buy the stuff under the bridge, you know, that's money. You know, you know, getting a fixed S agreement, for us, that's an economic development issue, but that's a lot of, legal costs that are involved in that. Martha was involved early on, and then, Shipman and Goodwin came in as kind of the closer on that situation. So, I mean, you know, legal wise, I think that that's why you're seeing the swing in legal. We had a couple, I think, tax matters. I think we cleaned up some old foreclosure matters. There were some old properties that have been laying on the books for a long time that were previous, you know, and we got those remedied. Engineering wise, I mean, I know there was large amounts of money for the stormwater permits. I know that there was the dam activity, and that was a updated regulation from DEEP, so that, you know, that could have been budgeted better if we had remembered. We didn't. So that was, you know, and, but then once the engineers got in, there was more work entailed, you know, than even they thought. And so, you know, those continue to be requirements that go on. Those are larger numbers, and then there are development issues where we have, you know, we did have our planner leave, so there is instances where engineering would be, you know, you're gonna have savings in planning, and you're gonna see a little bit of an increase there in engineering costs. You know, over time in snow, that's very apparent and known. When we look at the senior center, you know, again, we had a horrible storm in July or August. It was a huge claim that had about 11 different open claims on that I've been working through with insurance now all the way through. We're still receiving funds back on that, going through that. There was multiple mechanical issues related to that overflowing and that water, and that's an issue that will not be resolved. You're going to have that over and over until, you know, funds are put in place to resolve the draining issue in the parking lot system and probably in the state going in onto Main Street. So, you know, I think that, you know, there are some expenses that are out there, and then I think you see the positives on the revenue structure coming in with certain positives in your building permits and in your fees for the town clerk. So I think there's some positivity there.
Thank you.
Does that help?
It does, thank you.
Thank you, Tom. The next item is a resolution for the reappointment of the engineering firm for design consultant services for the Town Center Village District Overlay Zone. You recently approved for this current year, this would be the same confirm, it's the same agreement with the same fees, but it would be for 1 year, starting July 1 through June 30, 18. And you have a copy of it in your packets. Is there a motion to approve the 1-year agreement?
Someone.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Jim. Any discussion?
So with the option to renew for 3 one-year renewals, would it come up again next year?
Yes. Yes. I believe the first year is 15, 16, let's see, attachment A. Would be, let's see, we signed it. I thought it was in there. Maybe it's, no, I saw it on my computer today.
Signature.
This would be for 17, 18, one that you approved last time. I believe was the first renewal, if I'm not mistaken, for this year, so this would be the second renewal.
And I assume that option is obviously for us to decide whether the 3-year right to.
Like you
Every
would
year
each
it would,
year.
yeah. Yep.
No, versus their option.
Yes,
Right.
that's why it's in,
Yeah.
with us, yeah. It's to sort of keep the fees at the same level.
Right.
This year, I don't think we've used this very much at all. There may have been some applications, but not very many. Any other questions? Is Anchor Engineering?
So Susan, on page 1, under the whereas, item
Yes.
3, the consultant team will only perform these services upon request from an authorized representative of the town of Portland. For purposes of this agreement, an authorized representative of the town of Portland is you, and any other person designated in writing to the consultant team by the town. So talk a little bit about that. I mean, would that mean somebody that you ask to represent you, not this body?
It would be typically the land use department based
Okay.
on the application that would be either the tier 1, the tier
Mhm.
2, or the tier 3, which would be, excuse me, as identified in the zoning regulations.
Okay. And the other question I had, John Clark and Associates, they were the subcontractors last time, and their service was exactly what we wanted.
John Clark.
So, under the first whereas. Town of Portland hereby.
Yes,
Yeah,
As a
and we were,
subcon,
and we were
yes,
good.
yes. I
Okay.
don't, and I honestly, I don't recall dealing with them
So there must have
personally,
been no
so I don't
problems.
think we were.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, I've not had communication with them. It's been Anchor Engineering, or it has been the tier 1 is done by the COG,
Okay.
Council of Governments, for no fee.
And in item 10, under the whereas, all products are ours.
Yes.
At the end of
Yes.
services, okay.
Susan, it's my understanding that tier 1 involves like siding and windows, but these tiers aren't very clear.
We typically don't use them for tier 1, Ben. We don't use them. We use the Council of Governments.
Right.
You've seen
My,
all of
my,
that.
and I'm just going by what staff has said in the past, like that would be like a tier 1 if someone wanted to do siding and windows to improve the structure on Main Street, and I think that should be this board's goal to encourage that. I wouldn't want someone to misinterpret this in the future and think siding and windows could technically go under tier 3, construction or reconstruction. I just want to, and I've said this in the past, I believe as a town, if we want to have this village district, which I do support,
Yeah.
I think it's a big number. Potentially 2,300 is a very large number for a project when somebody's investing in our town and making it better. So I'm skeptical if we push anybody into that category that wants to spend money and improve our Main Street. So
If
my-
you have the wherewithal, you can waive the fees. You know, you could pay for them as the board. We did one year.
Okay,
We set aside a certain amount of money for encouraging, just as you're saying.
I like that.
We did set aside some dollars to, we didn't budget for it this year, but if you wanted to set money aside, a set amount, and once it's used, it's gone. But it could be an incentive, and we did that through the Economic Development Commission one year.
And I think arguably we could, one of the line items was planning and land use matters, a
Yeah.
category that we have like 30 grand in or something. That would be a perfect one if this board saw fit at the
Yeah.
time, something appropriate.
I
My point is, we
agree.
should be encouraging the fixing up of Main Street.
I agree.
Not hindering it. So, and I feel like a lot of people around town talk about, well, it's crazy that you could end up paying a $2,300 fee when you're putting $10,000 in the, so I think as long as we're sending the message, that's not our goal. I think that's,
And this board, as I said, can waive that if you so desire, based on your budget and the ability to pay. You know, Tom was pointing out some of our overages this year. We do have some, what do they call it, underages? Underspending in other accounts. So, you know, as you review your reports every month, and as you look at some of the goals that we have, there may be opportunity to do just what you said. And I think that would be good. Are you ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. I did forget to point out that Fred now said that he couldn't come tonight. He had to work tonight because this is the last night of the legislative session. So he's up in Hartford. Sorry, I neglected to let everybody know that. The next is the resolution for the lease purchase agreement. And the lease purchase agreement was part of our budget this year that passed. And in working with Bruce Chudwick to make sure we did things correctly and legally, we did review with him. I had drafted a resolution. He reviewed it, along with Michelle and Tom. And the blue paper in front of you, I would like to just point out to you that he has assisted us in writing first the resolution to recommend the authorization of a lease purchase agreement and call a special town meeting, which we're suggesting would be June 21, 2017, would be at 7 p.m. That is the resolution you would be asked to pass tonight. The second is the resolution on June 21 to authorize a lease purchase agreement to finance the 2017-2018 capital improvement plan. And at the special town meeting that we would hold on June 21 at 7 o'clock, we would present this resolution as I typically write up and give to the moderator at the meeting for consideration by those who are there to vote. And then they would vote either yes or no on it. And then the last page of the blue handout is the legal notice of the special town meeting that we would post in the River East that would give notice to the town that the special town meeting would be held and would be to consider and vote on the resolution, A, that the town of Portland finance the projects described in the capital improvement plan included in the town's 2017-18 budget using capital lease proceeds under a lease purchase agreement with a total principal amount not to exceed $1,602,250 and a term not to exceed 6 years for the lease purchase agreement. The lease purchase agreement will finance equipment and vehicles for grounds, fire, police, animal control officer, townwide, building maintenance, highway, and resource recovery project costs. And the first selectwoman is authorized to determine the terms and conditions of and execute and deliver the lease purchase agreement and any related documents and contract with contractors, vendors, and others on behalf of the town to complete the projects. So you would be passing the resolution that's first in this packet that would authorize us to have the special town meeting. Is there a motion to approve that?
So moved.
So moved by Kathy and seconded by Kitch. On the last page, you have a reiteration of what we passed as part of the budget, and that is the capital improvement plan with the listing of the capital lease program, which is there at the bottom. Discussion. So June 21 is our next regularly scheduled meeting, and we could hold this at 7 o'clock. And if you're ready for that question, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. So we will get this in the River East as the notification as presented, and then the resolution in the middle is what we would present to the townspeople when they come and vote. Thank you, Tom and Michelle, for helping. The next, Michael, would you like to address the support of the Paris Accord?
I would. Just a couple thoughts. I was mortified at President Trump pulling out of the Paris Accord, and without getting too deep into it, because it gets me upset when I think about that, I think that our town should embrace the ideals of that accord. This is one big world. It's the only world we know we have. I'd like us to join the other mayors around the country that are endorsing and supporting this. I think right now there's 287, I believe, mayors in the United States that are supporting that, representing about 248 U.S. mayors representing 56 million Americans that have agreed in principle to do what they can to honor that. So I think as a town that embraces solar, that has done things for the environment, I feel that that's something that we can do easily to support that. And that's what I'd like to add if we can.
Are you making that a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make that a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Jim? Second.
The motion is, we are, I'll read it. This
Board of
is,
Selectmen?
yeah, this is what the other 248 mayors, U.S. mayors representing 56 million Americans have adopted. We will adopt, honor, and uphold the commitments to the goals enshrined in the Paris Agreement. We will intensify efforts to meet each of our city's current climate goals, push for new action to meet the 1.5 degrees Celsius target, and work together to create a 21st century clean energy economy. So,
Now, Laura didn't quite get the third and fourth word.
how about, we will support the, I would say, the motion is, we will support the
She
ideals.
needs the email.
The what?
Slowly, maybe?
What do you need? It's not in an email form, but I can,
You could write it.
can I do?
Screenshot
You guys are
it
so,
and send it.
I'm gonna have my technical crew screenshot it and send it to you.
Mr. Tripp is our technical crew.
Dr. Tripp.
We can work on that.
Okay, there you go.
You can learn how to do this.
I can't, I'm an old dog, like, you can't do
Why don't you
tricks.
just say it again? So at least we have an idea of what we're voting.
All right. How about we will adopt, honor, and uphold the commitments to the Paris Agreement? Period.
Want to repeat that again?
Well, Hank, if I may,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes, sir.
that wasn't part of the commitment with pay 100 million. I just want to be careful.
100 million.
56
That-
million.
No, I think we paid, what was our obligation, 100 billion, 100 million?
No,
There's-
that's the
there
fake
is a
news.
financial input from America, so by using the language you are,
Yeah, just
I
be
just want to be
careful.
careful on the language.
So.
I liked where you said it in the beginning,
Can't afford that.
you
So-
had it much better.
Ah.
That's a budget thing right there.
So-
I don't want to put Portland on the hook for a percentage of the payment. That's what I want to be careful of here.
Just add zeros to the check, right? It's easy.
Oh.
If you have the exact, if you have it written down, I'll just take a picture of it and I can email it.
Well, I want to hear it too, because I want to make sure.
No, I'm saying what he originally said that he had. Yeah.
You know about Portland being supportive of solar and all that?
Yeah,
Do
I
you
like
know
all
about
that.
We're supportive of the ideals enshrined
Yep.
in the Paris Agreement,
I like that, that's okay.
without the
Does that mean we're
paying of
phoning
money.
up if we have to?
No, that just says the
So-
ideals. It doesn't say the everything. It doesn't
Right.
say the
Commitment
money behind it.
to
It is basically the mayors are saying, this is a good idea, we need to do our part to do that. And by the way, the money part of it was, the US agreed to $4 billion, not
Okay.
a
I just
$100
don't
billion.
wanna- I don't wanna
And we
have
paid
our-
a,
I don't
we
wanna
paid
have
$1
our
billion.
portion.
Part of the $4
We're
billion.
not paying any of the 4 billion.
Well, be careful on how you word it. You may be.
Could make her pay. Anyway.
Tom would definitely have a problem with that.
Exactly.
Tom, we don't have enough money to do this, right?
Yeah.
No. Okay.
According to Fox News, it's $1 trillion.
I mean, we do have a very strong energy, policy and strategy that Susan's well aware of all the,
Sure.
the 2020
Right.
Yeah.
plan and all that stuff.
This is an easy yes. We want to support the ideals of it, so.
So you want to say it again?
Say your simple statement so we can.
All right. The town of Portland supports the ideals of the Paris Accord.
You used the word enshrine first 2 times.
I did use enshrined. It was pretty fancy, wasn't it?
Yeah, no,
No, you're losing all
no.
that.
Just like the.
He's giving you
that's
one
it.
sentence now.
Nice and simple.
All sleep well.
That's all.
Otherwise, Susan's gonna have to find a hidden checkbook that we don't know
I'll have to
about.
get a second job.
Yeah.
If we got too much enshrining, we might have to pay.
Just that
I
little
can't even
word.
spell enshrining.
Of course you
So
can,
I
you've
can-
seen it 5 times now.
Yes. You want to get a little fancier? I can add one more half sentence to make it sound really good. And work together to create a 21st century clean energy economy. What do you think, Ben? Does that sound like no money
I don't
attached?
believe- I don't believe that gets us in trouble. I'm okay with
All
I think that's good.
Yeah.
All right.
That's very good. And as Tom pointed out, we have adopted a clean energy, excuse me, policy. We have enacted a lot of those pieces, and many of our citizens have as well. And our Clean Energy Task Force has and does a tremendous job in improving our clean energy, as does our Conservation Commission and other members of our community. That was seconded by Jim Tripp.
seconded it.
Are you ready for the question? Thank you, Michael, for bringing that to our attention.
You're welcome.
We will continue the ideals, and I'd like to put a special thank you to the Clean Energy Task Force in Portland and their past and present leadership in the area of clean energy, as well as many others in our community. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Andy Bauer is going to be very pleased with this, as am I. Thank you, Michael, for bringing that to our attention. The next is appointments to boards and commissions. Kathy, before the meeting, said she didn't have any tonight. Any from
No.
anyone else? Okay. So we will move on to refunds of excess payments. Kathy?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to refund $7.01 to Scott A. or Ann L. King.
Second.
Seconded by Ben. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion to refund $5.33 to Joseph Barron.
Second.
Seconded by Ben as well. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Any status reports? Michael, any say anything about the sidewalk committee?
We had a meeting yesterday in talking about how we're going to divide up the money. We had a good discussion about which streets we're targeting. We have 5 streets in mind right now that we talked about. For our next Board of Selectmen meeting, I'll bring back all the details of that. We're still discussing it, but we're shooting to get that finalized by beginning of August. That's what Rick said he needed in terms of to be able to put it out to bid and all. We should be able to put it out to bid, I believe, by January, February of next year. And we'll have kind of the whole streets that we're targeting. Some streets may have sidewalks on one side, some may have both, but we're looking at it comprehensively. The group that has been put together is very actively involved. There's some great things that were brought up last night. It's being very well thought out. So while it's only $1 million, we're going to try to make that $1 million go as far as we can. And I was just very impressed by how everyone was getting in there and has walked the streets and whatnot. We did get suggestions from a number of people to fix different parts of Main Street, in particular from the convalescent home back where there's lots of potential trips and falls.
Yeah, to Fairview Street.
To Fairview, exactly. So there were a couple of places like that that were brought up as to what to do to keep the walking traffic as safe as possible. So I'd encourage any of you guys to come to the next meeting. I'll get that out to you, but very, very good though.
Yeah,
So,
thank
I
you.
believe it's the 20th, is the next one that we decided.
Mike, or Susan, if I may.
Yes.
Potentially, couldn't that be a section to eliminate too, because we have a crosswalk right there, Main Street, and that is a really bad portion of Main Street, and it dead ends eventually. Wouldn't it make more sense to, that could be potentially one of the spots where we,
Yeah.
because we have a large tree to deal with that's
Mhm.
creating it in
Mhm.
that area, that is a perfect
Yeah.
example of where we could grass it.
Right.
It would be beautiful.
The only question would be, Ben, and
Yeah.
maybe you can think about this, is from the convalescent center. They do walk,
Oh,
and
they
many
take
people are
patients
in
on.
wheelchairs.
Good points.
Or motorized chairs.
That's right.
But I don't
You
think
have
they're
to
using
go
that,
right.
well, they're not making it past that hump.
Go across the
I
street.
I walked that the other day, and I don't think they're getting over that
Yeah.
hump.
I would
Then they
encourage.
want to.
More fun.
Yeah, I would encourage, Ben, if you get a chance to stop by, but some of you guys have been around town for a long time and have had issues with particular parts, now's the time, and because we're trying to address that as much as we can, so.
So Main between Arvid and Cove is really bad.
I would bring it up, I'll make a note of that.
Tons of tow trips there.
Right, the problem we're having is we've got $1 million, and even some of the streets, I think, gosh, what was the street? There was one street that had to do both sides, I think it was gonna be $340,000.
Freestone.
Yeah, Freestone was $340,000 if you did both sides, and there was a lot of work kind of built in, so we're in the process now of kind of making it more fine-tuned and looking at.
And with the work on Spring Street,
Mhm.
actually, the sidewalk portion would come from the sidewalk.
Actually come from that, right.
Yeah. So there's a fairly good
Mhm.
stretch.
Oh,
Mhm.
big chunk, yeah.
But that's one side only.
Yeah.
One side on the south side, one side on the north side. They switch at East Main, but that would only be one side. That's the way it is right
Yeah,
now.
our next meeting is June 20th at 6:30, and there may be pizza there.
Where do you have that?
It'll
You
be
didn't
in the.
tell me this.
Are you
We waited till you
bribing us
left
with
before we
pizza?
said that. It was 6:30 in the town hall.
What kind of toppings?
What's that?
It is a good meeting.
Yeah, it's a good meeting. It'll be at the main
Very
meeting room, but yeah, that'll be 6:30 that day. I'd encourage if you could come down, or even if you can't, just let us know what areas that you want us to look at, but now we're looking at them and trying to figure it out, so.
I-
If you can
noticed
remind me,
that-
Mike, I'll definitely try, because I think it's important on these roads to at least get one side in
Yeah.
good shape.
Yep. I agree.
If our goal is to start connecting things and making it safe, we can get a lot further
Yeah.
with that mentality, and even, and Freestone's a tough one. I wouldn't even be opposed to giving up the town sidewalk, we have to maintain it, a crosswalk right there to the other side, and eliminate the whole north side.
Actually, that's one of the things that came up yesterday, was to do at the end of East Main where it hits it, is put a crosswalk there. That was one of the ideas
Yeah.
talked about,
Uh-huh.
because it's just really rough on the other side of the church.
And I don't know if you know this, and I'm sure Susan can check into it, we can get caught. These new LED signs that flash for, and they're on motion, flash for pedestrian crossing
Mhm.
are.
Oh, yeah.
They're self-sufficient.
Yeah.
They're
Right.
solar operated. They're all LED. We can stripe and literally
Yeah.
put a couple safer crosswalks in and force everybody to the better side.
Yeah.
And I think using that mentality, because if we are taking this animal on, you're gonna want us over time. Let's get one side right. Let's get these crosswalks in a safe spot, and I think you're gonna see it.
It may
Correct.
slow down.
Correct.
That's the goal.
LED,
right?
these LED lights
Yeah,
are
they-
incredible.
yeah,
I've seen
yeah.
them in other towns, they have the pedestrian walk.
Yeah.
And they're
Yes.
activated by, I believe, when somebody walks up next to the sign.
Mhm.
That's when they start flashing. So, I mean.
That's great.
And they're bright, so something to look into.
Yes.
Yeah. I do want to make a comment. Complete Streets has been great so far in terms of what they've been doing. They're bringing a lot of resources to the table, putting ideas out that have been very helpful. So it's been a very good interactive group. I think we've got it's a big one, but they're taking it very seriously. So you guys would like what they're doing.
Susan, if you
Yes.
could have Rick get a price on one of those
Sure.
freestanding, just so
We
we
can
have
do
an
that.
idea, and I think
Yep.
Mike, I think Mike could use that information at his next meeting. I
Absolutely.
don't believe it would be a big deal
Mhm.
to get the number, and I would personally rather see if we have to buy 10 of these and put safe, like you mentioned, the convalescent home, there's a perfect example where if we did eliminate all of that poor sidewalk, give them the crosswalk, because they're potentially might be the only one that's benefiting.
On Main Street.
Right, and you know what, it works in two ways, like you mentioned, it controls traffic,
Mhm.
it makes a safe place for people, at some point they need to cross, the walk ends.
Mhm.
So, we're literally picking the safe spot for it to occur, so I'm okay with that.
Good suggestions. As far as the road improvement, we are working with Jacobson Engineering to look at Spring Street, as we have discussed most recently. So they are looking at the improvements to that. And I asked that the engineer look at and design the replacement of the road where it needs to be, whatever level it would need to be repaved, as well as the water and the sewer lines underneath, because the road's gonna be opened up, and the sidewalks. And as I said, it would be on the south side in one section and the north side in the other section. So we are proceeding with that.
Stormwater,
be aware of that.
we're okay with stormwater probably, right?
They're looking in that, they're gonna look at the drains too.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
good point. Quite a bit of work there.
Is there gas nearby, Kathy, for that road?
Not on Spring.
Would that be,
It goes to Trinity, right?
would this be a good time for somebody to contact the gas company to potentially put in a
Yes.
gas main?
It could very well be.
If the road's
Yep.
open and they don't have to pay for the repair to the road, I don't believe that would be an
We
addition.
have it at Valley View School.
That would hook
Yeah.
it between those.
Right.
Yeah, right, so that might be something they would consider, and I think at no cost, and people could then start tying in, so
That'd be great.
something to consider at this point.
Very helpful. And then the miscellaneous items, which would be the condensers on this building, and help me out, John, the roof at the garage,
The HVAC units, I think at Highway Garage and I think
HVAC at Company One, and the town garage,
Roof at 2,
and the roof at
Roof at Highway
Company
Garage.
Two,
windows at Buck.
and the windows at the Buck one. So we're getting prices on those?
We're gonna, so we're using, state contractor for the top of the HVAC work. And then we bid the equipment, for them. And, that's for this up here. The next project would be the HVAC components. That we bid the roof. And then we bid the equipment. And then, there'll be the installation. And then we have put an RFP out for an architect for the, design of the roofs and the windows, just to ensure that everything is designed accordingly or reviewed appropriately. And, that's out to bid right now. And that we engage them to design specs and, figure out what needs to be done for the situation. So with the piece of, Rick's, the priority of this building was the HVAC, the air conditioning units, trying to, one, beat the heat as well as they weren't gonna probably last any much longer. And then, the heating units will be the next one that we need to go, be ready so that they'll have heating for the cold weather. That would probably be the next component.
So that's the explanation of the $500,000 that was approved in November under the bond authorization. So we're working on getting numbers for those items. We also, from about 3 years ago, we've been setting aside dollars for some sidewalk improvements at town-owned buildings. And I believe I mentioned this at one of the previous meetings, and that would be sidewalks in front of Brownstone Intermediate School, from Middlesex Avenue to the end of what used to be the tennis courts. The large tree that's there will not be cut down, but rather, the sidewalk will go around the tree. And they're talking about maybe putting benches where the sidewalk is, so that people would not be compelled to go on the grass, but go around. So you'd actually go, as you walk, you would go around that little mini park that's there. I think it could be attractive. It's one way of dealing with a healthy tree that's potentially impinging on that sidewalk. These are the questions that the sidewalk committee is starting to grapple with in terms of trees and sidewalks. And the park, Route 17 Park, there is some items that actually the selectmen will be speaking about under executive session, land acquisition, and that committee is very busy. They have come up with a synopsis of the work they've accomplished, and they're doing some publicity on that, so I will share that with you. It's helpful so everybody knows what it is they're doing. Their goal is to go out to bid by, I believe, October, November timeframe, so that they'll get some good numbers. We will also need to be negotiating with Weston and Sampson for an expansion of their contract to prepare the bid documents, all of which is covered under the $6 million allocation that was voted on in November. And I'll also add that the Airline Trail project should go out to bid June 13, Tom? All those documents are ready,
Good.
and they will be issued, and we're hoping to get some good numbers in. Let you know when that comes in. If anybody wants to bid on it, please have them pick up the documents in Tom's office. There is a fee of $100, is that correct, for the bid documents?
Yeah, there's a $100 fee for that one.
There are quite a few documents to review in preparation for that. We thank that committee for their diligence. I did attend the Forest and Park Association Trail Day, which was at the Airline Trail, and it was well attended by a lot of people from out of town, as well as people from town. The word is out that this is a nice walk. It's a little rough in areas because we don't have the gravel down yet, but still in all, it was a wonderful day, and again, I thank the Airline Trail Committee for their work. Any questions on any other projects that you might have wondered about or wanted to know the status on at this point? Okay. Public comment. Shirley.
I have a question in relation to the level of the LoFSUP funds available.
In terms of particular projects, the Middlesex Avenue Park project, or the general approach
I guess
that
you
the
would call
state
it the
has for
Middlesex
LoCIP?
Avenue Park. I don't know. It's in relation to the town's cleaning up its property behind the homes of the houses on Russell Avenue.
The LoCIP allocation did not come this year. We are expecting, at least some of the recommendations are that it will come in next year's allocation. Tom, do you have any updates on that for the Middlesex Avenue project? I know it's going to be talked about at the Park and Rec Commission meeting again. It's talked about every month, and I understand from Sean Dwyer that you surely had asked to attend and have some of this information available at that meeting. Did they have it already, or is it next week?
It's Monday.
'Cause he was prepared to
Because
have
if
that
there's no
information.
money to go forward, there's a safety problem down there.
It's
The
not that-
fence has been taken down, and the children from the school are flying through that vine-infested area, many of the vines on the ground. If one of them gets tripped in the vine and goes flying forward, they could hit their head on the brownstone that's sticking out.
Thank you.
It's a dangerous situation down there. The fence was a mess and needed to be taken care of. I mean, that was known. Certain members of the board went down and looked at that and saw that. Okay? But now, even that horrible-looking fence is gone, and you can't keep the kids out of there. Number two, what happens during football and soccer season? Football and soccer season, when the parking situation at Agalotti Field, which is a good field that's used for both football and soccer, and Mike Agalotti does a beautiful job in the fall in striping that so both sports can be played on the same field with different color paint on the grass so they know what they're doing. Are we gonna have to put up with people going from Russell Avenue through our yards to the field? Who wants to be financially responsible for any injuries that happen because of the town's totally blighted, absolutely disturbing condition? And this was brought forward many years ago, and nothing's been done.
Any other public comments? Norm?
Something else came to mind when we brought up the new town park and some land acquisition. I'm hoping that when and we do purchase whatever additional land we need, I hope that will come out of our $6 million money
Yes.
and not.
The answer is yes.
Okay,
That's
great.
in the opinion of probable cost that we all voted on.
Okay,
Yes.
great, because I heard a little different, but
Yes,
I'd
good
like-
question.
thank you.
Thank you. I got that clarified with our bond counsel as well. Shirley?
In relation to, the Route 17 park,
Yes.
it's, my understanding that there has been a fence proposed to go between the park and the homes on Michelle Drive,
Michelle Drive?
whatever, what's the name of that?
Michael.
Michael, I'm sorry, I apologize, Michael Drive. And that's part of the plan. However, it's my understanding that the fence that's being taken down at the middle school, or biz, whatever, is not gonna be replaced. Why can they have one between the park and the homes on Michael Drive, but not between the school grounds and the homes on Russell Avenue? Seems to me to be a little bit of discrimination.
I will check on your statement about the fencing. I don't remember the fencing. at
I
Michael
thought it
Drive.
was tree screening that
Yeah,
was gonna
it's
be
tree
put in
screening.
just to help with any noise and any pavement.
The guy didn't want
the
fence.
The guy didn't want the fence.
There was one
There is no
gentleman.
fence.
Yeah, there was one gentleman that said he did not wanna have the trees, he actually wanted to be able to see the fields.
Right.
I'm not sure if that's gonna stay that way, but my understanding is it's tree screening that's
It's
going
not
there.
fencing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's an excellent idea. I think we've seen in the past, fences are a maintenance issue. If we can put up some certain pine trees or what, something to that effect, I think we're much better off.
Thank you. Any other comments? Thank you very much. Informal discussion. I have nothing on the follow-up for tonight. And I believe it would be number 17. With the amended agenda, we would ask for a motion to go into executive
Move to go to
session
executive session.
for the purposes of the MEUI Library Union contract, and we will invite in Attorney Joseph McQuaid, our labor attorney. Motion's been made by Kitch. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ben. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. So as the room gets cleared,